I tried to put my arm on my colleague's shoulder multiple times. Several years ago, then in late 20s, was friends with a female colleague and I was walking her home. I liked her, but apparently she didn't like me romantically. I tried to put my arm on her shoulder and she swirled out of it. I tried to do a few times and got the same reaction. So I eventually stopped doing that and took her home. After taking her home, on my way back I realized that I was trying to touch her without her consent. I apologized to her via text message and she said it was okay. After that we remained friends and did friendly activities, such as playing sports together and exchanging gifts. We are still friends, I think. But the fact that I tried to touch her without her consent still haunts me after many years. I apologized to her again last year and she still said it was okay. But I can't forgive myself, even if she forgave me. I feel like the worst person ever. I don't know this is whether because of my OCD obsessive-compulsive disorder or because I really did something that bad and should feel eternally bad about it. I can't rate my past objectively. What if other people find out that I did this? Will my friends stop being my friends? Will I lose my job? Am I still qualified to find a romantic partner in my life? If so, should I confess to my future partner about what I did? Would it be dishonest to hide this past from her? Please rate the badness of what I did in your opinion. My sister hooked up with my fiancé. My whole family cut her off, and she came crawling back after they lost everything. My family was just as shocked and hurt as I was. They couldn't believe that my sister would stoop so low, and they immediately cut her off. She was no longer welcome in our home or in our lives. My fiancé and I tried to move on, but the betrayal was too much and our relationship eventually ended. I thought that was the last I would hear from my sister, but I was wrong. After years of estrangement, she came crawling back. She had lost everything and had nowhere else to turn. She begged for my forgiveness and asked for a second chance. I didn't know what to do. On one hand, I wanted to hold onto my anger and hurt. I didn't want to let her back into my life after what she had done. But on the other hand, I knew that forgiveness was the right thing to do. I couldn't hold onto my anger forever, and I didn't want to carry around the weight of resentment. In the end, I decided to forgive her. It wasn't easy, but I knew it was the right thing to do. We started rebuilding our relationship, slowly but surely. It wasn't the same as it was before, but it was a start, and I was grateful for the opportunity to have my sister back in my life, even if it was under different circumstances. The whole experience taught me the importance of forgiveness and the power of second chances. It reminded me that even when someone hurts us, they are still worthy of love and compassion, and it showed me that even in the darkest moments, there is always a chance for healing and reconciliation. Also, thank you guys for the ideas they worked. I never saw it coming. My sister, my own flesh and blood, betraying me in the worst possible way. I had been with my fiancé for years, planning our future together. When I found out about their affair, I was devastated, heartbroken, and couldn't believe that she would do something like this to me. I called off on a really important day. My boss undermined me yesterday and essentially refused to take any blame in a situation where I am 115% positive she gave me the wrong information. I don't think she was doing it intentionally, but I do think she didn't know what she was talking about, and instead of admitting she gave me the wrong information, she said I didn't hear her right. We began to suffer the consequences. She threw the blame on me. I ended up offering to stay an extra hour to get things in order, and after that hour I said I was checking out for the day, to which she responded that it wasn't fair that I go home. I work 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. After several times of recommending I go home, I felt sick to my stomach and I was prepared for the worst. So I took photos of my time cards and vacation divided by balances and discovered they've been illegally changing my time punches this whole week to reduce overtime and meal violations. I ended up with a full-blown panic attack, blood pressure at 200/130ths, and in the hospital last night till almost 1 a.m. I'm dreading calling to update them, as my dad called to tell them I was in the hospital and wouldn't be in today. What do I divided by say? Was absolutely entranced by this man's body odor. I M1 was in a lecture hall, and this random guy sits next to me during class. He takes off his sweatshirt, and this sweaty musky smell hits my nose. It smelled like it just worked out and came to the lecture without showering. Now it's definitely not a fetish thing. I did not find the scent or him attractive at all, and I'm a super clean freak who's really sensitive to bad smells. But for some reason, His body odor was just extremely addicting and satisfying to smell. It wasn't sour or gamey like other people's beau. His scent had this heavy molecular musk, which carried into this light or ounceonic morning, duostone type smell, both blending so harmoniously, even describing it makes me jittery. It was extremely strange. I wasn't sniffing like a lunatic, but I also wasn't trying to hold my breath is all I'll say. Has anyone had a similar experience? It's been many hours, and I'm still thinking about it. I just really need someone to validate my experience, lol. I don't even know how I'd ask my friends without coming off like a serial killer. Not looking forward to hanging with a friend who just keeps making the same mistakes. So I to 5F have a good friend from college 25 meters who I normally hang out with often. A couple months ago, he had a bad breakup, and I was really only able to be supportive over text most of the time as I had changed jobs, traveled, and gotten engaged simultaneously. Last time I saw him 2 to 3 weeks ago, he was telling me how much he hated his ex and was already talking to someone new. But this is not the first time I've seen him do this. After a bad breakup with his last ex before the most recent one, that he stayed with way longer than he should have and tried to get back with, he rushed into his most recent relationship that he was miserable in for the majority of the time, and has been texting me ABT how much he hates her, but is looking to jump into another relationship. He recently asked me how I met someone that was so good for me, my fiancé, and we met on Tinder after I had been single for 2 years. As the last 2 relationships I'd been in ended, since each of my exes had clearly just wanted to be in a relationship more than they wanted to be with me, thankfully, they were both pretty short, so I didn't waste too much time. I told him after being on the other end of people, just people using me to make themselves feel loved, he'd be wasting both their times and needed to be single for a bit to find someone that was actually good for him. But he keeps saying he's so scared of being alone and unloved again. I was single for a long time before my fiancé and was fine, so this is something I kinda struggle to understand. He supported me through a rough time I had with a period of unemployment last year, and I want to be there for him now. But I'm getting really annoyed after listening him complain about his then GF during their relationship, ranting about how terrible she was. In hindsight, what a surprise. Just so he can rinse and repeat. Any thoughts? I saw a friend while drunk and I don't remember anything. I'm 19F. Recently, I went to a party. At this party, I drank more than I thought I did and ended up blacking out for a couple hours. I remember at some point in the night, I was with a friend and separated from the rest of the group. I am not sure why, because I don't remember. What I remember is sitting with him and leaning on him because I couldn't stand or sit on my own. I eventually just fell over into his lap. He was also extremely drunk and could not stand or really do anything either. From then on, I have a gap in my memory. The next day, I apologized for being weird. I assumed I probably was annoying and drunk, touchy, leaning on him for support and so on, or even made a move because, to be honest, there are many instances of me kissing friends when I'm drunk, even if I am not romantically interested in them. To be even more transparent, there was one other incident where I felt up another guy behind me, assuming it was the friend I was with because I did not realize my friend had left me. I am ashamed of all of these incidents and have apologized and attempted to take accountability for the last one. However, when my friend did not respond for a couple days, I felt SMTH was off. This morning, I received a long text of him confronting me, ABT, sighing and violating him. He is OFC deeply hurt and upset about this. I apologize the best I could for a situation like this that cannot be remedied with a simple apology. A big problem is I don't remember what I did, and I don't want to push anyone to tell me. I'm wanting to talk to people involved soon. I feel wrong for even feeling upset at this situation, but I feel extreme guilt. I never thought I could hurt someone in this way, let alone a friend. Even though I did not intend for this to happen, I still violated someone, regardless if I was drunk. I'm going to stop drinking, but I wish I just was not like this at all. TBH, what happened, and there is nothing I can do to reverse it. I'm not looking for advice, BC. I was not the one who was wronged. I just needed to talk ABT, BCIDK, how to live with myself. Update. I found out through a friend of his what happened. He helped me find a place to piss, and after sitting down, I got on top of him and kissed him with his consent. I want to clarify that I know what I did was wrong regardless of if I was drunk. I am not using alcohol as an excuse. Many people are too focused on the alcohol aspect and are even claiming him an alcoholic. I am not. I just sometimes take it too far and black out. However, even though I am not using alcohol as a crutch, I am no longer drinking because it would be wrong for me to even risk putting someone else in that situation. Also, in the past when I have kissed friends, it has been consensual. Most of the time there is even verbal consent asked from me or the other person. I used to steal cash from the Subway sandwich shop I worked at. I started working at a Subway as my first job. My boss was a loser. I was 17. He was 24. After working there for a while, I found out his parents bought him the Subway, as I am assuming he wasn't really capable of doing much on his own. I was more mature than he was. He would always show me pictures of his weekend nights out, as if I thought that was cool or something. I just kept it easy going and went along with it. He was very lazy. Within a month or two of me working there, it went from me and one another person, and sometimes 3 during rushes, to me by myself, and one other person for dinner rushed to an hour before close. Whenever my boss showed up, he might fuck around for a bit and help a few customers, do paperwork and whatnot, and just leave or sit in his office doing jack shit. Essentially, he became very comfortable with me doing most of the work, and I did it well with no complaints. Honestly, Subways was kind of fun besides the lines when I was alone. After about 3 months in, he would barely be there when I start shift, or leave shortly after. I started dealing with more things, like franchise inspections and inventory divided by ordering. I was already doing the end-of-day reports since I was closing. I asked for a raise. He said no. It really didn't bother me too much, as it was just a part-time job for spending money. Help at home. Well, the more and more I learned the system and understood his lack of attention, I quickly realized I could make some extra cash. Basically, the end-of-day report would have counts of white and wheat bread. To make sure all used bread is accounted for, we throw some away at night, so there is generally a little variance. This count includes all the bread we have in stock, including in the freezer. The thing is, the open boxes in the freezer, we would just mark with a permanent marker, subtracting from the total each time we removed bread. Knowing he's not actually going to count out the bread in the freezer box, I would modify the count to say there was more bread in the box than there was. He rarely did the bread himself, and if the bread count in the box was low, I wouldn't mess with it, to be safe. He never knew the counts were actually off because the system was accurate. I would make cash by not ringing up the order. There's a camera aimed at the cash register, but I naturally blocked the screen, so it wouldn't have seen me not ringing the order up, and I pretended like I was pressing buttons. Lol. I had the subs' prices with tax memorized. When they pay with cash, I don't ring up the order, but I put the cash in the register, making a mental note of that amount. I didn't do this to every cash order, just easy ones, and obviously can't have 0 cash sales. At the end of shift, we do a cash drop of excess cash from the register to the safe via envelope drop. So while I was counting out the cash to drop, I know exactly how much of that was minna. I knew the perfect angle of the camera, that when placing the cash into the envelope, I'd quickly crumple up the money and keep it in my hand, while I drop the envelope into the safe. Then I'd just go do more closing stuff and put the cash in my pocket inconspicuously. I never got caught. On weekends I could easily make $100 without him noticing. I made over $10,000 from stealing cash alone, and I gave my mom most of my paycheck. I just used that money to put a down payment on my first car. Thanks, name redacted, you fucking idiot. I copied a Goosebumps episode to win a competition. We had a competition to write a short narrative while I was in primary school, so I would have been 9 or 10 years old. The assignment was to be finished in one class. Regardless, I've always had a passion for writing, a knack with words, and a desire of being a writer that never quite worked out. It was probably my first instance of writer's block. I was at a loss for words, and frantically scribbled meaningless words down on the page, over and over, until it dawned on me that I had just seen a new Goosebumps episode. I then recorded it in writing. As far as I could recall, the entire episode. A damn Goosebumps moment.